Hello guys, welcome back to Warrior Wisdom. This is where we interview faculty across campus, hoping to learn from them and their experience in hopes of spreading wisdom that may be applicable to you as a student. Today I'm here with Dr. Pinchback. Dr. Pinchback, if you could briefly introduce yourself and also explain what brought you to RCU.
Sure.
That'd be helpful.
I am Dr. Rebekah Pinchback, and I'm the Dean of the School of Business and Technology here at RCU. I've been here for almost 2 decades, and I started out with just a really strong desire to teach. And I thought, if I want to teach at the collegiate level, I should probably work at a college. That's what I kind of started in a very low level position. I just came in the registrar's office as the admin assistant. That's how I started. And just kind of worked my way up from there.
That's great, yeah. So the first question I want to ask is, what's a moment in your life that didn't go as planned, and what did it end up teaching you?
You only want one?
Your best one.
I'm just kidding,
preferably.
yes, okay. There's a lot of non-traditional pieces to my life story, but probably the biggest one and maybe the most applicable one here is when I went away to college. I was a first-generation student. I did not have parents that went to college. And my dad was a pastor at our church and, grew up in the faith, grew up as a very faithful family. And when I was, right before I left for college, my dad just made a ton of decisions and decided to just walk away from his faith, walk away from our family, walked out of my life and didn't really ever walk back in. And it totally disrupted my first year in college. I ended up on academic probation. I had barely a 1.0. I wanted to be a medical doctor. And I was just so emotional over all that was going on in my family. It just disrupted my life in such a way that I just couldn't focus and I couldn't concentrate. And so long story short, I ended up taking time off and just kind of stepping away from school, and I got married and then I started working. And what's interesting is it's full circle moment to be sitting here as a doctor today, not a medical doctor.
Yeah.
But I started working in sales and I loved my job. And eventually was I really want to go back to school. Getting a degree was important to me, and I was in a healthier space in my life where I could focus on it. And at the time, if you wanted to go to night school, the only option was business. There was, we didn't have online school back then, and there weren't just all of these choices. And so when I look back on the story now, that was such an important pivotal moment in my story and in my career. I just picked business because it was the only thing that made sense for schedule wise, because I was really crushing it at my job and I loved the work that I was doing. And so today to look back and say that was an important part of my journey. I would have thrived in a place like Rochester.
Yeah.
I was at a state school where I truly was a number. I didn't have anybody seeking me out. And I do wonder, could I have made it in that pathway if I had had folks that were really cheering me on, but I didn't. And I didn't have really a lot of support at home. But of course, when you look back today, it's this is where I was meant to be in business. When I started taking business classes, a part of me came to life that I didn't know existed. And I just found so much joy and so much creativity in it. And so it ended up being a great fit for me. But that was a big disruption in my life that ended up being a real blessing and taught me many things, personally and professionally.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm just wanted to follow up. You mentioned that the way things kind of happened, and it was your first year of college, and you were kind of in this, for lack of better terms, hole. I just imagine other students that are maybe going through that experience where college and challenges outside of school impacting how they are showing up at school. Yeah. How long did that take you to overcome this obstacle in your life that was so pivotal at such an important stage?
Years.
Yeah.
But truly, I was away from home. My home life wasn't, the home life that I had grown up with. So there wasn't a lot of support there. My mom was grieving so much and walking through her own things. And so I was really isolated. I did not have community. I think that I could have stuck it out and probably had a traditional experience had there been people or a community like this that had rallied around me. So I would say if there are students here that are feeling that way, just stuck, you are in a wonderful community. It's like a warm slipper around here, you know, and so just have enough courage to say, like, I am not doing okay and I need help. And there are so many people here that would be willing and would love to listen and be part of that recovery and finding the right path for you.
It kind of bridges to another question I was going to ask, but what do you think students overlook or underappreciate while they're in college?
What I see often is I think it's hard sometimes as a student for us to like embrace the process of growth. Like growth does not happen overnight, and my biggest advice, and probably the thing that I just put on repeat when I'm talking to new students that are coming in, or high school students that are thinking about college, there's so much pressure to have everything figured out in your pathway, like, you know, paved straight and to know where you're going. But that isn't how the learning journey works. A lot of the learning journey is non-traditional, and there's barriers, and there's, you know, times where you have to summit the mountain, and then there's times where you're going to go into these deep valleys. That's part of the beauty of it. And so embracing the process and knowing, like, I'm growing each day, and all of this, it's going to make me stronger, it's going to make me better. Using the people around you in the community around you to help mentor and guide that. I really think embracing the process and understanding the way I feel today is not the way I'm going to feel tomorrow. It's not the way I'm going to feel a year from now. And just enjoy the journey.
Yeah, I can relate to that a lot, in the sense where you go through periods of, like, you feel like you're not going to get out of this, or it feels so immediate, and it feels so like you're stuck. But it's crazy when you can look in retrospect and just see, like, oh, okay, that's all part of the journey. So what's something you worried about deeply when you were younger that you see very differently now?
Certainly as I've grown, I have grown into my identity and knowing who I am, whose I am. I struggled a lot with, like lots of young people, just friendships and community, and wondering whether or not I was enough or good enough, or just living in that self-doubt all of the time. Maybe not all of the time, but a lot of the time. And wondering if I'm picking the right path. I felt a lot of pressure about what I was going to do, where I was going to go, how I was going to be successful. I think when you come from a family, my family is pretty like self-made, you know, it wasn't like, hey, you went to college and got the job and you climbed this ladder in this way. And so I don't know, there just comes pressure with that of like, okay, how am I going to make it? What am I going to do? And how am I going to be successful? And how am I going to represent? I've always been really compelled to just like live my life faithfully as unto the Lord, and want to like step out in my calling, but not understanding really what that meant. It took me years to see my work in business and the gifts that God has given me as like holy work. I saw like the separation for a long time. Like it probably wasn't until I got into my like late 30s till I really started realizing I'm doing holy work every day. And so the older that I've gotten, the more I've seen that like God's using my gifts and talents in these beautiful ways. Like He created me to do this, and I don't have to step like outside of my box, or I don't have to do something. I think sometimes, we were just talking in class about it today, this morning, about calling and vocation. And there's this fear sometimes, like God's going to ask me to do this thing that I don't want to do, or that I'm not good at. I'm like, that's not really how calling works. Like He's given you these gifts and these talents for you to use for the betterment of the community, for the world. And so I think taking some pressure off of that conversation and just realizing that like I'm already walking alongside God, and there's hurt and need and pain all around me, and how do I use these gifts that I've been given to like bring redemption and bring beauty to the world?
I guess a follow-up question with that would be, how do you discern your gifts? Because I feel like sometimes it can be, and especially in kind of increasingly distracted world we're living in, it's sometimes hard to find what your calling is and to discern that. Would you have any advice to a student?
Yeah, my first question would be, what are you good at and what do you really enjoy doing? What pulls at your heartstring? You know, when you are out in the world and you're out in the community, what are the things that bother you? What are the injustices that you see that you want to see fixed? A lot of times when we're talking about, you know, business, what are the bosses that you've had that have just been rotten? That have like really bruised you, or you've seen the way that they have responded to other people, and how do you want to be better? Where do you want to be better? I think that's a start. The other piece of it is there's nothing in this world that is ever going to satisfy us. And so, like, do you have a relationship with God, and what does that relationship look like? I don't mean just like going to church and following these routines or traditions. I mean, like, truly, we've been talking about it, our theme in chapel this year is gnosko. Like, do you experience God? Do you walk with him? Because that's the only way to live. It's the best way to live. And until you're doing that, I don't think you're ever going to be satisfied. I don't think this wandering, I've seen it even in my own kids and a lot of students, where like I'm wandering and I'm just like trying to find the sense of purpose, when if you fully know who you are with the Lord and you believe the things that he says about you and you're walking in communion with him, I don't think you're going to lack purpose. I don't think it's hard, because everywhere you go, it's like you start seeing the world in color. Everywhere you go, you're like, well, this area needs love. This place needs attention. Wow, why are these people why isn't anybody advocating or standing up? There's like, all of a sudden you see the world from a different perspective when you are like walking in confidence, you're walking in relationship with God. Like, all of a sudden the world comes open to you. And you're like, the question doesn't become, where do I fit? It's like, wow, there's so many places I fit. Like, well, then what's the right one for me? And that's where you start asking, well, what do I really love? Like, what gets me jazzed up to get up in the morning and to get out of bed and get me excited about the work that I'm going to do?
See. Would you say your calling has changed from when you were a college student to now, and it's evolved throughout over time?
So one of the things I love most about the way that Rochester teaches calling is that our callings are many and they're overlapping, and you are likely not going to have one calling your whole life. My calling as a student is done. I love to learn and continue to grow, but you know, I spent a lot of years going through all of my degrees, and that was a big part of my calling for a long time, and that's not a part of my calling right now. You know, I am called to be a mother and a wife. Those are probably my most important callings. My work here is really important to me. It's a great part of my calling. I also am a leader in our youth group. I work with our high school students, and that's a really big part of my calling. Kind of one of my other circles within my calling is all of my kids are adopted. And so I have a heart and advocate for adoption and foster care. There's a lot that's broken in that system. And so I have all of these callings, and they all overlap and make up kind of just like when you talk about your vocation and what you're called to do. I'm called to do all of those pieces, but not all of them are forever. You know, hopefully I will forever be a wife and a mom. You know, so some of them are steady, but early on, you know, when I was a teenager, that wasn't what I was focused on. And so, I think that's a beautiful part of who we are and how we change and how we grow. Callings are not necessarily forever. Yeah, there's seasons for sure.
See, you talk about how you work with a youth group. Do you feel like there's a unique set of challenges that our generation today faces, maybe compared to what you faced as a generation when you were growing up at around our age?
Yes, the level of anxiety and depression is crippling, and it breaks my heart for this generation. And the message that I'm constantly preaching to students, high school and in college, is learning how to be still. And like shut off the noise, not to unplug. I am a technology-free classroom. I started doing that a couple of years ago because we're just too plugged in. Every minute is taken, and whether we're sitting in the bathroom or we're sitting at a doctor's office or it's 10 minutes before class starts, it's instinctual that we are grabbing our phone. I'm part of this too. And just trying to be more disciplined in my life to say, we need space to think and breathe and live and reflect and be creative. And we can't do that in an environment where we are just plugged in all the time. And so I think that's a major, their confidence comes with that when you're feeling anxious. I think there's like a real lack of confidence in a lot of students in this generation. But I think it all stems from this like anxiety, this depression, this unsureness of who am I, where do I belong, where do I fit? And I don't think that's something that my generation faced, not to the same level for sure.
Yeah. I feel like something common amongst my generation is it's like as soon as a frustration or anxiety or a sort of negative feeling comes out, or even a good feeling, we can just immediately distract ourselves. Like rather than sitting with the problem and the feelings, it's like we outsource it to a device that gives the short dopamine. Like it feels like it heals, but it's only temporary and it's not long lasting. Yeah, so
that's
when
a
you repeat
beautiful
that,
way to say it.
Yeah.
It's true.
Our attention is very divided. So yeah, it's reassuring to hear that that's an observation like you've made.
But it is one that can be overcome, right?
Yeah,
you can
100%.
discipline yourself to say, okay, well, it's actually a really easy problem to fix. If the problem is that I'm too plugged in and I'm not giving my body and my mind and my heart space to like think and reflect and heal, cope, right? Sometimes we just need to go for a run, or my kids in my house love punching a punching bag. Like, what is the thing that we need to do instead of just this senseless scrolling that's not rejuvenating us in any way and actually is adding, because of the algorithms, it's adding to our fear and anxiety. Yeah. We can unplug. Like, that's an easy solution, and that's why I preach it as much as I can.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot about our Principles of Marketing class, just a no device kind of zone. It's just can focus and listen to lecture and engage and interact. Yeah. This is a good bridge from what we were just talking about, but when life feels overwhelming, what helps you stay grounded and keep moving forward?
Hands down, it's my faith, right? It's my relationship with God. Life with Jesus is better. It's more peaceful. It's more full of joy. It is the way to live. Similar to the conversation we just had, adapting practices in your life to be still. One of my practices is every morning coming into work, I drive in silence. I don't have a long commute. It's just 21 minutes. But for me, it's like this setting of my day that I really appreciate. Sometimes I'm praying because my heart's burdened with something that's going on in my life or a student's life. Sometimes I'm like, I'm about to step into the classroom and I'm going through like, what do I have to do today? Or what am I teaching today? What do I want to say? What do I not want to say? But it's just space. And so I'm working, the older I get, the harder I work at creating times in my calendar where there's nothing planned. And nothing can be planned. I think as a leader, that's something I've learned in the last few years in a dean role. I have to have space. I can't be in the classroom or in a meeting all the time, back to back to back. And like that will kill creativity. That will kill innovation. And so if I want to do those things, and good leaders should want to do them, we have to create space. I have to create space in my life to read and refuel and to be active and to get outside, to spend time with my family, to do the things that I love. And so whenever a student or somebody comes to me and because they're struggling and they're feeling overwhelmed, the first question that I'm asking is, where in your life is there space? And usually the response is, there's no margin. And it's really hard as a student because you're in school full time. Many of you are athletes. Then you're trying to work to pay for school. It's like, well, how could there possibly be margin? And so I'm not saying, hey, spend 3 hours a day reading a book curled up on the couch because that refuels you. But where can you create margins? Where can you reclaim time, like my space in the car? Do you have a 20-minute commute? Could you turn the music off and the podcast off and just sit in silence? Are you comfortable doing that. Some people are so wildly uncomfortable with just sitting in it.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said earlier, that is where we heal, that's where we cope, that's where we think, that's where ideas come, you know, that we want to do and innovate, and we have to give ourselves space.
I think also even just recognizing your calling, right? Like, how do you know your gifts and what you want to do if you haven't sort of sat with yourself and just taken some time to de-stimulate, because we're so constantly stimulated.
You're gonna, if you don't notice what's going on in the world around you, which is easy to do if you're always plugged in, you aren't going to notice the needs in the community that could really use your talent. You're not gonna, you may not even notice the things that you're really great at if all I'm doing is staring at a phone and scrolling, which takes almost no energy, takes no brain power. It's a really easy, I know why we do it, because it's a really easy way to like let go and kind of feel numb. But I think you would have a very difficult time in identifying a calling or articulating that if you're not, you know, creating space where you're just observing what's happening in the world around you.
So find moments of silence, ways to sort of de-stimulate yourself, to actually in turn fuel yourself.
Create margin in your life. In almost every class that I teach, I'm really big about learning reflections. I want you to reflect on the learning that we did. And so in my business ethics class, we do so much reflecting because we're talking about really complex, controversial things that are happening in the marketplace, and then go back and regurgitate it, like simmer in it. Like if you're a meat and marinade, right? You need to just like sit in it. And, you know, a student said to me today in class, man, I've never thought about it that way. And I was like, great. Now keep thinking through it. I'm not asking you to believe the way that I believe or to think the way that I'm thinking. I'm just giving you new ideas to like ponder and pull apart. And like, that's like the wonder of learning, right? But if we don't have space to reflect or create, what are we doing?
Yeah.
I think it would be really hard to find your purpose if you're not giving yourself space to seek it out.
If you could sit down face to face with your younger college self, what would you want them to understand?
I think I would tell my younger self, life is not going to go the way that you think that it will. It's not going to go the way that you planned. Like, that's life. It's gonna turn you on your head. But there's so much beauty and joy and love to be had if you can learn to embrace the process. And you know where your hope lies. I know that my hope lies in God, and that He is faithful and He's going to get me through whatever the thing is. That seasons are going to come and go. And so what the darkest of dark right now is going to be the lightest of light, you know, and tomorrow or maybe a year, or even if it's a few years from now. I would tell myself not to take myself so seriously. Not be so, I can have a very serious and intense personality. I want to do things with excellence, but that bleeds, it's a really easy bleed in to perfection. And that's a dangerous game, right? We don't need to be perfect at anything. I want to be excellent at everything, but I don't need to be perfect. So I think that's, embrace the process. Know that it's going to be okay on the other side. No matter what the season is or what you're going through, like, it's going to be great. And it's your story, and it's all of it matters, all of it. I hate the phrase, everything happens for a reason. I don't believe that. I think unreasonable things happen all of the time. Unreasonable things have happened to me in my own life. But God does take everything and make it good. All of the unreasonable things that happen in our life will be made good and into these beautiful masterpieces if we just will trust. Do we trust the process that whatever's hurting us today, can be made into joy later?
I really like how you said masterpiece, because it reminds me of this analogy where you have a blank canvas and it's your story, this masterpiece, but you have to learn to embrace like all the parts of the masterpiece, like not just where it looks good, and all the colors that make up your experience.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts of my story is that I almost got kicked out of college my first year because today, now working at a university, it's the piece that I connect, if not most, I connect deeply with students who are really struggling with life circumstances, or this is harder than I thought it was going to be, or whatever. And to say, like, this moment doesn't define you. This is this one little blip in your story, right? It's the one little black piece in our painting.
Yeah.
But like that can push you and help you grow, and you're going to learn perseverance. There's so much that you're going to gain from this experience. So just trust the process.
I think it's so great how your experience as well and what you went through early in college is helping you relate to, as a professor now and a doctor, to relate with students who are also going through that process. I think it's really meaningful and powerful. So
Thank you.
Last question. What would you tell students who are struggling to find purpose or direction beyond school?
I think I would just reiterate some of the things that we've already kind of talked through. If you're struggling to find purpose, know that the world, like, your purpose is not going to be in the world. And if there's a disconnect between you and God until you reconnect, you're going to struggle and you're going to spiral. And embrace living. Notice what's happening around you. Notice the world around you. And you're not going to notice unless you unplug. You've got to find moments where you can be still and take notice of others. People are a big part of that. And I think understanding what compels your heart, what draws your heart. You know, for me, that's foster care and adoption. I've adopted kids, and I've been immersed into that world. And that is a painful system that needs a lot of, it's so broken, and it needs courage, and it needs innovation, and it needs so much love. And so how can I contribute to that process? Now, that isn't my job, but it is part of my calling. It could have been, maybe if I knew earlier on that I was going to have that compulsion, maybe that would have been a direction. Maybe I would have went into social work. But that's why those are the pieces, you know. What you study may end up being different than what we're teaching you in college. I'm not teaching you how to be an excellent businessman. I'm teaching you how to be an excellent person.
Yeah.
Right? Be an excellent man who runs his life with integrity and is going to be, might be a great father and a great husband and a great community member and a great family member, and going to notice these needs in the world and look for how you can bring your gifts and your talents into, fix some of that brokenness. So it's a lot of paying attention to otherness, and I don't think we can do that properly if we're not unplugged.
I like that, yeah. Well, thank you for your time, Dr. Pinchback. Really appreciated you sharing your wisdom and experience. Yeah.
Okay.
Should we get?
Yes, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a lot of repeating.